Okay, we have school district or school board candidates on the stage for this portion of the forum, but before we get to that, we do have a couple of candidates that are running unopposed for Blaine Birch Bay Park and Recreation District 2 commissioner seats, and we would invite them up to the front. First of all, John Roy. The fan section. Oh, there you are. You can just grab one of those mics if you want and take front and center stage. 2-minute introduction for John Roy, candidate for Blaine Birch Bay Park and Recreation District 2 Commissioner seat.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name's John Roy. I am wearing shorts because I own a bike shop in Birch Bay. I recently opened that and was asked to consider serving on the Parks and Rec Commissioner Board. And being that my wife and I really wanted to get involved and be part of the community of Birch Bay, we just felt it was a great opportunity to do that. So I'm honored to be on the ballot, and I just would appreciate the support, and thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Dave Wilbrecht, also running for Blaine Birch Bay Park and Recreation District 2 Commissioner seat. Mr. Wilbrecht.
Is it turned on? So my name is Dave Wilbrecht. I've been as commissioner for the past 4 years and have had a chance to serve in that position. I'm running unopposed, so I don't really need to worry about a candidate opposing my thoughts and opinions, although I'm sure many of you might. I've got lots of years of experience, about 15 years of that in Parks and Recreation as a director and places all over the state of Washington and California. Then came to this area back in 2013 and was the city manager of Blaine for 5 years. So I have a lot of experience around these public processes, and being able to offer that after I retired was just really a nice thing to be able to do. So after 4 years of serving, I thought it would be great to stay on the dais with the other commissioners. Shelley's here tonight. She's our chair, I'm the vice chair. And we've got some plans, and one of the first plans we're going to have is to move forward with a ballot this February to pass the Blaine Birch Bay Parks and Rec District bond issue, which is really important. For those of you who like our services, we want you to vote yes for that. So I'm going to do a little pitch. I can do that, I think. And you can vote for me, of course. The next thing after that, I think our highest priority is trails. And particularly the connection between Birch Bay and Blaine. And we've got trail segments now. We've got a park planned on California Creek. You can drive by it. There's going to be a launch for kayaks there, but there's also conversations about connecting in a safe fashion Blaine and Birch Bay so you can ride your bikes or walk between the two communities. That's a very high priority for the district, and so I just wanted to let you know about that. So thanks for the invitation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbrecht. We also have a candidate for Fire Commissioner District 21 that's running unopposed, but to introduce herself, Kimberly McMurray.
Hi. I just want to say thank you all for attending tonight. I think it is very important for you to know who you're voting for and who we are as people. So thank you for coming, and thank you to the Chamber for organizing this event. My name is Kimberly Kalman McMurray, and I'm running for North Whatcom Fire Commissioner position number 5. I have been serving since September of 2020. I am a burn survivor, and I'm also married to a retired firefighter, so fire departments are in my heart and soul. They saved my life. But more importantly than that, I have a bachelor's degree in business administration, and it's of the utmost importance to me to be good stewards of our taxpayers' money and also to make a difference in the community that I have lived in my entire life. So thank you.
And thank you. We'll begin this session with our candidates once again by allowing each of them to up to 2 minutes to introduce themselves. We'll then have a series of questions for the candidates running for Blaine School Board. Since all of the candidates running for the Blaine, that's a note for myself. Should put those in italics. All right, we'll start with Director 1 seat, and we'll start with Erica Kreit.
Hello, my name is Erica Kreit, and I'm running for Director 1 seat. I'm from Blaine originally. I went through the Blaine schools K through 12, and then went on to college and graduate school and got my master's and doctorate in Chicago and came back to Blaine. I have 3 kids who have all been through the Blaine schools. 2 are currently in the Blaine school right now, and it's a precious system that is really important to me, and I want it to be a place where the kids can get a good start and get a good education and good foundation. And I want it to be a safe place too for them. So I'm licensed as a psychologist and a business owner. I started Touchstone Behavioral Health 13 years ago, and we have over 40 behavioral health clinicians now, and we provide counseling services in the community. So I have a lot of experience running an organization and dealing with operations, management, difficult situations that come up, and making decisions and providing oversight. And so I just really appreciate everybody being here to get to know us and learn about why we're doing what we're doing, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
My bad. My name is Kimberly Ockery. I, too, have been a resident of Blaine for my entire life. I grew up and went through the Blaine schools from kindergarten through graduation. I've also got to experience the Blaine schools for my children going through. I have one son who graduated in 2020, and my baby is now a senior this year. So I've had the pleasure of going through the school and then also experiencing as a parent. My sister and I own Pacific Building Center here in Blaine. We're very focused on community. I think most people who know me know that that is something that's incredibly important to us, supporting when we can. So when the opportunity arose for me to apply to take the position in District 1 when the director had to step down, I felt like it was my time. It's something I'd thought about doing for a long time, and I felt like it was something that I would like to do to support the community even more. And so it's been interesting, and I really have enjoyed it. It's been eye-opening to me to see the intricacy of how these schools are run, how many things are, going on a daily basis. It's not simple, it's not easy, and it's definitely, like I said, it's been a learning experience for me, and it's something that I hope to continue. Because I truly, truly believe that the school is moving in a good direction and that public schools are incredibly, incredibly important for all of our communities. Thank you.
Mr. Freeman.
Thank you for the invite here tonight. I am Cliff Freeman. I'm running for District 3, which is primarily the Birch Bay area. I'm running because I saw an opportunity to continue to serve the community. I have no particular agenda, no axe to grind. My wife, Ann, is with me here tonight. Thank you, Ann. I'm a lifelong borderite. I'm a product of the Blaine school system. Following school, I attended WSU. I have a BS in civil engineering. That's not to be confused with a degree in BS. I joined Anvil Corporation following graduation. Anvil is an engineering consultant. We serve the refineries and oil and gas and heavy industry. I worked my career with Anvil, and I retired recently in the last 5 years. I've been a part of the Blaine CTE, which is this Careers Technology Committee, for probably the last 15 years. And I will say that I'm really happy to see where Blaine is at with career training, trades, and such. In my day, our metal and wood shop was first class. The pendulum swung the other side. We were focused more on college prep type classes. Well, the pendulum has swung back the other way. So we're seeing great programs, great faculty. I'm really pleased to see where the school is at in that arena. Thank you.
Mr. Ford.
So I think there's a trend here. I think we all grew up in Blaine, or at least a lot of us. So I grew up in Blaine. My family still lives here. And after graduating high school, I went off to BYU, Idaho, got a degree in business management. served a mission for 2 years for our church, and then got married, had kids, and now I've got 5 kids in or soon to be in the school district. So I've kind of been invested in this school district most of my life. And some of the things that have happened have been wonderful, and there's some things that have been concerning. Everyone in the room knows that there's been lots of layoffs with the school, there's been budget issues, there's been lots of things. And I know not all of that is anyone's fault, but what are we doing to solve those issues? I feel that my experience and education in business management, following budgets, my family owns a trucking and crane company in Canada where I work. I work with unions every day. Working with the teachers is just like working with my truckers union, right? Find out what we can do to mutually benefit each other. Really, a good negotiation is where you both lose a little bit, to be honest. I just want to be a voice for parents and teachers. I was talking to my opponent, and that's all we were talking about is we just want to make a better world for our kids. That's it. I'm not running for any political reason. Honestly, after going through all the financial and crap we had to go through for this, I'll never do it again. But, I'm just running to try to make this better for teachers, to make it better for students, and to try to help, if I can, find new ways to raise funding so our kids have a financial future to have more teachers in their classrooms, because that's what's going to improve our poor test scores, to be honest.
Thank you. Mr. Bovenkamp?
Well, I wasn't a borderite myself. I hope you don't hold it against me. Hey, good evening. My name is Derek Bovenkamp, running for Blaine School District, Position 4. My wife, Colleen, and I have an 11-year-old son enrolled in Blaine Middle School. We've lived in Blaine School District, or Birch Bay, really, since 2010, and I've lived in Whatcom County my entire life. One of the things that really concerns me is I think a lot of us are feeling more and more divided. Most of the news we read is divisive, and we're hearing more and more about politics displacing education in school. While I, of course, have my own political views, I don't believe the school board is a partisan position. Whatever your political beliefs are, I think all parents and voters want their children in the district to get an excellent education. We need to make sure our students recover from what was lost during the COVID pandemic. We want the board members to make sound, reasonable policy decisions, putting the students' educational needs first, and the school district budget spent in an economical and sustainable way. Parents, of course, want a school board that will listen to them before making decisions. In the light of not running a partisan campaign, I've chosen not to raise or spend any money. I'll second Ryan there. There is a lot of forms to fill out when you run for office here. And I'm not going to have any signs or junk mail with my name on it. While this is the first time I've run for office, I feel I am suited for the position because of experience of the board of directors in a nonprofit electronic medical records users group and serving on the Mount Baker Council Boy Scouts of America. This has given me a good background on how good boards operate to serve the community, and in the case of the Mount Baker Council Boy Scouts of America, to serve youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Running in seat 5 unopposed, Mr. Don Liu.
Thank you very much. My name is Don Liu. I was appointed in February 22 to the Blaine. I was appointed in February 22 to the Blaine School Board and have been serving in that position since then. I am not a borderite. I did not grow up here, although I have to tell you my first memory as a 3-year-old in 1950 was in discovering the meaning of nettles at Birch Bay State Park when I was looking for a place to go to the bathroom at a family picnic. So my family is deep roots in Whatcom County, and I've come back every summer since about 1951 when we left to go back east. My schooling has taken me east. I have degrees from Michigan State, bachelor's degree, a master's degree from Harvard, and a PhD from Berkeley. That, by the way, some people refer to as piled higher and deeper. for PhD. My career has been one of service to children and to teachers. I started as a Peace Corps volunteer teaching English as a second language. I served as a fourth grade teacher. I was a reading specialist and clinician at the Harvard Reading Lab and in California. I was a professor of reading education at Syracuse University, and I'm emeritus professor from the University of Connecticut. I think I can bring a distinctive perspective to the board, at least that's what I hope I do. I care deeply about public education and our children. It's the core of our democracy, it's a core of our society, and it's our future, quite frankly. So thank you for inviting me here. Even though I run unopposed, I think it's important that you all understand who I am. So thank you.
Thank you, Don. Also running for the Director 3 seat is Jeff Carrington. Unfortunately, Mr. Carrington was unable to be here this evening, but he did record a message that we will play for you now.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Carrington, a current candidate for the Blaine School Board. I was unable to attend this evening's debate due to a previously scheduled maintenance surgery. I'd like to start by thanking the Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce for assisting in this short video and sponsoring the event. My family's been part of this community for over 4 generations. I have 25 years of history doing volunteer work for Blaine and Birch Bay. Many of you know me as Coach Carrington, following 8 years of coaching AAU girls basketball. I've always believed that supporting the development of our children is key to our community's future. My community service has included the elected positions of President and Treasurer of the Birch Bay Chamber of Commerce. I formed and served as the original chair of the Birch Bay Library Committee. I served as chair and member of the Birch Bay Beach Park Committee. I chaired the Birch Bay Economic Development Committee. I have served 3 terms as the elected commissioner for the Blaine Birch Bay Park and Rec District, leading that commission for years as chairman of the board, focused on developing recreational programs and infrastructure for our community. My professional background in education is in business. I have owned, operated, and overseen several businesses over the course of my career. 20 years in the hospitality industry, owning and operating restaurants. 10 years owning and operating 4 insurance offices from here to California, training and overseeing 140 agents and staff. CEO of J.D. Carrington, Inc., specializing in business consulting and real estate development. Currently, I work locally as a broker for Windermere Real Estate. My motivation in running for the Blaine School Board is my belief in giving back to community that has blessed my family with a quality of life that I'd like to see continue for generations to come. If elected, I promise to pursue transparency in decision-making, to listen to the public for which I serve, and to always consider the well-being and education of our children as my first priority. I want to thank you for your consideration and your time this evening.
Okay, and just in the nick of time, Mr. Ben Lazarus has showed up. Please take 2 minutes to introduce yourself, Ben.
Hello. Hi. My name is Ben Lazarus. I am running against Dean Berkeley for the school board seat 2. I first got interested in this position back in April when there was the big contentious school board meeting and the budget cuts. And I stood up at that meeting to speak in defense of the arts because it made a huge difference in my life, and I could see the difference it's making in my daughter's lives. And I wanted to make sure that whatever happened, it wasn't the arts that took the brunt of it, which is what I've seen in the past. So I spoke in defense of the arts, and then I watched the rest of the meeting, and I've since come to understand a little bit more what was going behind the scenes, but I wasn't really happy with what I saw, and I thought I could sit in the back and I could heckle and I could complain, or I could put my foot forward and offer to do my job and my best to serve in my community. I am a teacher now. I was teaching this morning. Gas turbine engines, post-secondary is what I teach. And then I went to my shift taking care of an airplane this evening because I like to stay active in industry. I've owned a business. I owned Westwind Marine in Point Roberts for 8 years. I learned a lot about budgets and managing people and managing different personalities, and I think that will help me in this position. and I'd like to serve on this board to give something back into the Blaine community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lazarus. All right, let's talk issues. And can anybody guess what the number one issue is that people want to talk about? Money. Yes. We'll start with the seat 1 candidates. Blaine School District has recently experienced budget cuts. That's definitely a hot topic. How do you feel about the current state of the finances at the Blaine School District? And what do you feel are the best ways to ease the pain of future budget challenges? Ms. Kreit, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think this is a concern that we all share about the budget and wanting to make sure that we're being good stewards of the money and that the kids are getting what they need, teachers have what they need in order to do their jobs. There was a lot of positions that were cut that were really important and critical to education. And so this is a big challenge. I think in the future what really needs to happen is we need to have a lot more transparency over the budget and a lot of work sessions on the budget where we sit down and look at the budget in an open meeting line by line all together and see where can we make decisions that don't negatively impact the kids, and where is there waste, where could we rein it in so that we're not cutting critical things that can hurt the kids and negatively impact their education. We need to be really on top of this and paying attention to it before it's a crisis.
Ms. Ockery?
I agree. It is actually the one thing that concerns me the most when I think about the work that we're doing with the school board. The thing about the public school system right now is that we are required to provide so much to these students that they deserve, but we're not funded for it. And the district has to try to make up that difference. What we receive from the state and other funds, to try to keep up with the level of education that we have right now. It's a really difficult question because even then, when you're looking at the school district, 85% of the operating budget is people. And so there's not a lot of places to cut. And unfortunately too, the hard part is when we start looking at these things, we know that it's detrimental, but we also know that we can't run a budget that runs into the red. And so it's extremely difficult. And I would really, really love to find a way to get our legislators to work harder at funding public schools better, and just recognizing the fact that they're not keeping up with the demand at this point. And especially too, we have a district like Blaine who values their employees. We want to provide good paying jobs. We want to be a place where people want to work. And you can't do that if we're not being funded. So.
All right, we'll move to seat 4. And this was also a popular question. With the majority of BSD students population residing in Birch Bay, up to 75% in some of the younger age groups, and 100% of Blaine School District facilities being in Blaine, what is your vision for serving the needs of Birch Bay students and families? And we'll start with Mr. Ford.
My answer is kind of simple. I mean, I live here. It'd be closer for me, great. The only thing I care about is the budget. If we have to cut teachers, move people to different schools, and that's going to affect the overall student body, I don't want to do it. But if there's a way to do it from separate funds through taxing in a certain other way, hey, I'm willing to pay more so that my kids can have a school closer to them. But if it's going to affect the general student body and the education of everyone in Blaine, I don't want to do it. I think we should put together some sort of feasibility study. It could be run through a class at Blaine with help from a local university to help them put together an actual study, something they can put on their resumes for college or for business. Put it to the community, find out where their feelings are at it. And I think that we as a community have so many members. I mean, I didn't know we had someone from Harvard around, and I have friends who are going through certain things. They were in gangs when they were younger, but now they've overcome it. We have people in the community, even in this room. We don't understand everyone's experience. We had a former police chief from St. Louis. I didn't know that. If we polled our community, and reached out to everyone and said, hey, we have these issues. What can you help with? I guarantee you there's people in this community who'd step up and say, you know what? I ran a business in this area, I can help. Or I'm an accountant, I'm a CPA, I'll help with your budget. I think we have the resources here to make our problems at least better.
Thank you. Mr. Bovenkamp.
Yeah, I mean, living right down the street, I would have loved if my son went to elementary school right down the street. But, you know, I agree with Ryan. I think we need to put all the students first, and we need a feasibility study into what would that do to our operating budget, and what would that do to all the students? Would that raise the bar of their education, having two different elementary schools, or would that lower the bar? We also need to, you know, in speaking with the superintendent, it sounds like the middle school is much older than the elementary school. So if we built a new elementary school out here, would that detriment our middle school students? So we really need to look at it as a whole. I think it is important to have those elementary schools close to students, but it needs to be a sound decision. We shouldn't just rush into it and then find out that there's a bunch of negatives we didn't think about.
Thank you. Once again, we remind the audience that we are taking questions tonight in the form of written note cards. If you have a question for any of our candidates specifically or for the group as a whole, please feel free to write it on the note card and hold it up, and we will come and collect that from you. Please. 2 minutes, Mr. Freeman.
Funding. Boy, it's a painful thing. And I don't see the pain going away anytime soon. I see enrollment down. As a result, funding is going to be down. So I'm thinking we've got several years to deal with this issue. I don't want to see it on the backs of the taxpayers. There's certainly a funding source, but I don't see that. I don't want to see it on the backs of the faculty and the staff. There's a lot of moving parts right there. All I can say is a person needs to understand those things and then put a plan together and then get the community engaged in that. What do they want to give on? Do they want to give on facilities? We have a levy that's being proposed for the middle school. Do we give on that for a while? Do we get by with that? I just don't see the pain going away anytime soon. And what's going to help facilitate and move that along is going to be public input. We got to see where the public wants to spend their money and work with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. You brought up enrollment. That leads into the next question nicely, and we'll go to Mr. Lazarus for this question. You mentioned enrollment is down. Why, and is there a solution to turn that trend around?
As I'm stepping into this role, or hoping to step into this role, I'm going to be doing probably a lot more listening than trying to put out answers at first. But a couple of thoughts that have already crossed my mind on this are the value of our arts programs for keeping kids wanting to be in school, the value of trades programs for keeping kids wanting to be in school. We're losing students, and we need students to be part of our schools because this affects our budget very materially. So if we can create a school that attracts these students that are choosing to homeschool, or supports the schools the students that are choosing to homeschool, why can we not find ways, or can we find ways to support these students and bring some of those dollars back into our district?
All right, we go back to seat 1. How do you intend to advocate for the Blaine School District during the next legislative session? And we'll start with Ms. Ockery.
I've said before, one of my goals is to be in contact with our legislators. I know that sometimes, unfortunately, it can be frustrating because you can speak, but you feel like you're not being heard. And so that is definitely something that I've experienced a little bit in my limited interactions. I would like them to, I would just like for them to acknowledge the fact that there needs to be more funds. And I don't know, unfortunately, it's going to take more than just a small group of people going and protesting or going to a rally or something. It's got to be constant. You have to be in their ear all the time. And you have to have money, too, to lobby for things like this. It's incredibly frustrating, and it's incredibly difficult. And I wish I had a great answer, but I don't know that I do. And I guess the only thing that I can do is just continue tweeting at my representatives and, sending them articles and things like that, just to let them know that I'm paying attention to what they're doing, so.
Yes, the school district, we all have memberships to WASDA, which is an organization that helps school board members navigate policies and procedures, getting recommendations that are legally recommended ways of making changes within the system. And WASDA has legislative representatives that are lobbyists that help advocate for schools. And I think it's important that as board members we communicate with WASDA and use those resources and lobbyists. And when we see different bills coming through that could be beneficial, making sure that that we're aware of what those are and communicating with those systems to use those resources to also help kind of get that synergy going so that we can make sure that the schools are funded adequately. And it's definitely a huge issue.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to Mr. Freeman. If any, what do you think the place of religion is in public schools?
Ooh, I like that. I like that. But let me sidestep that for a minute and just talk about enrollment for a second. Enrollment is down in large part because we shut the school system down during the lockdown. And those kids aren't going to come back. Parents found alternatives in school choice, whether it be homeschool or school connections, you name it. There's other alternatives out there. And whereas I'm a believer in competition, that's a good thing. I'm a believer in school choice. I think Blaine needs to be competitive and bring those kids back. There are some programs in the school that are drawing some kids from homeschool back in with certain classes. That's an important thing. But we got to be competitive. But enrollment is down. I think it was a mistake to shut the schools down. I think it was, you were fighting against the state, and the school districts really didn't have much of a choice. It was a painful thing. And then I think religion is an important part of. Religion is where we develop our morals and our character. And without that, you're wandering. So religion has a place. There are programs out there that actually lead to that in some fashion. We got to understand where our founding fathers are with that. They were a religious group, and they talked about God intervening and the divinity supporting their decisions and what they were doing. And actually, some of the beginning schools were based around religion. I just think that a piece of that and that understanding is important in the school system. A program I keep thinking about is I'm a Hillsdale fan. They have religious type programs that supplement and support school systems. I think that piece is missing. We've driven that out of our schools. We need to put some of it back in as part of a healthy environment. Thank you.
Let's move back to the fourth seat. Takes a while to learn the school board job. It can be a little convoluted at times. What experience do you have in public school administration, and how do you plan to train for the job if elected? We'll start with Mr. Bovenkamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a complex job, but I think I have to approach it like I would approach anything in life. The experience I have is really in business and in healthcare. I also have experience on two nonprofit boards. The first was for an electronic medical record systems board supporting the users. The second was I still serve on the board of the Mount Baker Council Boy Scouts of America. Both of those nonprofits, both especially the Boy Scouts, suffer the same budget problems that the schools do. And I have the experience year after year working on those budgets, finding a way to make a balanced and sustainable budget. And to the second part of that, of how else will I prepare, you know, it's what I'm doing now. It's digging deep into the statistics, and it's figuring out what measurable key performance indicators can I propose to the fellow board members if I'm so elected, and work with the superintendent of how we're going to improve things, how we're going to measure things, and we need to be open with the voters the parents of what we're doing and how we're measuring things, and what we're going to do if things aren't trending the way that we want them to go.
Mr. Ford.
So talking about experience and what I have to contribute to the position, I think a lot of it's based on education and background in business. Again, I think everyone's hot button topic is the budget. And again, trying to find new ways that we can find resources from public and private sector to see if there's ways that we can add a little bit more to what we're working with. I've had a lot of experience through university groups or other things of fundraising or working with the private sector to try to find those funds. I've worked with a lot of youth in this community. I'm a youth leader in my church and with the Young Men's Organization, and just the week in and week out working with these boys, 12 to 18, has given me a lot of understanding of their world and what they're dealing with. You know, trying to, I don't remember too well what it's like to be 12, kind of, but, you know, so it's the experience that I have with the youth directly in our community is invaluable to me. How I would prepare for something like this is, you know, working with the parents is, I know I have a lot of personal concerns, but my background and my education leads my brain to think in a certain way. I might not think the same way as you do, and actually talking to the parents outside of my usual social circles, I think it's important. I don't know how many people here have been to too many school board meetings, but I think I counted 2 parents, maybe 3, at the last school board meeting I was at. Granted, I haven't been to every one, but I think it's something to where we as parents need to be more involved, and as grandparents and general voters. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. All right, this question will do for Mr. Lazarus and Mr. Freeman, 2 minutes each on this question. There's been a lot of talk about a potential school in Birch Bay, or that is certainly a want of the citizens if realistic, but let's face it, such a building will not be built tomorrow or probably even within the next couple of years. In the meantime, do you have ideas on how the school district could better serve the students of Birch Bay? Mr. Lazarus, 2 minutes.
I entered Whatcom County via Point Roberts. I spent 15 years living there, so I have a strong understanding of the distance education portion. I will say, in my experience, the kids didn't mind the bus ride. If I had a bus that drove to my front door and then drove me directly to work, and I got to go to work like that, I would never drive. And neither would any of you. My kids didn't mind the bus ride. Where we fell short and were not served well, and the reason I actually relocated, sold my house in Point Roberts, where I enjoyed living, and moved around to Blaine, was for extracurriculars. Because anything my kids wanted to do after school would involve an hour and a half of driving minimum for Sheila or myself to pick them up. They couldn't just drop by friends' houses after school. Friends wouldn't come by our place. And there had been, prior to my kids getting to the older grades, a late bus, which made a big difference for kids who wanted to stay for extracurriculars, stay for bands, stay for for sports teams. And I think we would probably find it is a more cost-effective solution, near term and maybe even long term, to provide better bus service later in the day, that kids who want to participate in extracurricular activities can do so without their parents having to make those extra trips. Or if they wanted to go to a friend's house, they could go to their friend's house and come catch the late bus. I think that would be my proposed solution.
2 minutes, Mr. Freeman.
To better serve Birch Bay, no, I do not have any intermediate solutions. I think about serving the school district. Point Whitehorn is further out than Birch Bay is, even though the population is greater here. So I don't think about any intermediate solutions. I do think it's important that there are buses available for those extracurricular activities, because they're our drain on parents driving back and forth from Birch Bay. But I don't consider the drive being that onerous, generally speaking. I remember as a kindergartner picking up the bus on the edge of town and riding out to Point Whitehorn to pick up the rest of the kids and making it back in. And that was fine with me. Matter of fact, side story, that was where my first crush was at with my bus patrol leader. Every time I see her, I remind her that she was my first crush. We all fell in love with our bus drivers and our patrol leaders. So that's my thought there. Thank you.
Thank you. Don, you've been sitting there so patiently. We have a question for you. With your experience on the school board so far, what characteristics make a strong fellow board member?
That's a great question. Listening, working together is most important. When we have a unified board, actually the research shows this compellingly, when you have a unified board that works together, listens carefully to one another, you get greater student achievement in the classroom. It's a pretty strong effect, actually. So it's critically important that we have a board that works together. And that comes from really trying to understand one another and listening to one another. We've had a fairly successful school board, and it's gotten us through COVID. It's getting us through these financial times. There's a lot of tensions in the community, and our board has hung together pretty well. So just as a reporter out to all of you, I would say a really successful school board is one that works together. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. We'll go back to seat 1. A lot of talk about extracurricular activities this evening. What are your thoughts on the number of extracurricular activities that are currently being offered to the students at Blaine School District? And do you feel that there should be more or less? Ms. Crate.
Yeah, I think extracurricular activities are really important it's very important for kids to have something that makes them feel good about themselves, where they can get exercise, make friends, or find meaning and express themselves. And so I think it's very important that kids have something that they can grab onto and find that at school, outside of school. I think always there's room for more. I think sometimes the activities aren't equally funded or valued by the district or by community members, and so I think that creates a challenge too. But I think ideally, there would be something that everybody could participate in, and I think Blaine Youth Sports has done a great job organizing and getting together more of a close, like the web page where people can know where to go for information, how to sign up. I think there's been some real progress in strides that have made it easier to find out about stuff and get signed up for stuff. But definitely there's always room for more people to share their hobbies, skills, passions with other people, and so that the kids can learn from them.
Ms. Ockery.
I agree with Erica with everything you said. Blaine Youth Sports is amazing, though they're not affiliated with the school district. It has opened up for younger kids, and so then what happens is up until 6th grade, and then after that they can play in middle school and high school if they want to continue on with sports. And it's different sports. There's cheer and volleyball and basketball, so that's really great. I am excited that there's still drama, a drama program at the school. We're going to go see the play this weekend, and so that's great. I think that it's difficult, you know, again, oftentimes if there's something that you would like to see the school district advocate for or promote, it also comes down to then trying to find somebody who's going to be able to run that. And I'd be willing to hear from anybody if they had suggestions or ideas of things that they think would be beneficial to the students. I speak from experience as a kid, you know, when you find your passion, when you find something you really love and you care about, it really kind of keeps you out of trouble and it keeps you focused. I had horses when I was a kid, and I was too busy with my horses to you know, get into too much trouble. And so I think it's important for kids to be able to find something they love and be supported in that, and then continue on, you know, for as long as they'd like to, enjoying it and hopefully, you know, growing and also spreading to other people too.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to put you all on the spot. Don spoke of cohesiveness on the board earlier, sometimes easier said than done to accomplish. With so many new candidates and the potential for really a basic overhaul of the board, how would you work to make a cohesive board that Don spoke of earlier? We'll start with you, Mr. Bovenkamp.
Working together is important. But I also don't, or I should really say, good discussion is important. It can make us better. So I don't agree with just going along with a board member because you're, quote, working together, but good, strong discussion, as long as we're not losing the respect of other board members in really just focusing on the issue, makes us stronger, and it can make sure that we are offering what's best for our students. So, you know, I would, of course, like to get to know the board members if I was elected, and, you know, get to know their point of view, and just make sure that we can have those good, strong discussions, because there's a lot of work that needs to happen, and we need to work together to get it done.
We'll go right down the line to Mr. Ford.
It's funny, he and I have a lot of the same ideas. But the long and the short of it, I think it boils down to respect. You need to respect everyone in the room, but I'm a very avid proponent of innovation. You need to share your opinion. My education, my religion, my growing up years, everything makes me different than you. We all need to share our opinion in a, in my opinion, bold but respectful way. Because we may look at things completely different. And if I don't want to be compliant, I don't want to just sit there and go, oh, yeah. I want to make sure my opinions are heard, and I want to make sure everyone else's opinions are heard, and that we all throw it all out on the table, hopefully have community members at the board meetings, have their input, and then make a concise decision as a group.
Freeman.
Thank you. I would echo those early remarks there, but I would add to it and say that this topic actually was about something I read about this morning. It was an article by Tony Dungy, and it had to do, the topic was disagreement and how important disagreement is to the discussion. And in his example, he was pointing out his coaches. Everybody had a different idea through the headset during the game or during turnout, but at the end of the moment, they had to agree upon something. A leader made a decision. And disagreement, putting on the table, is an important piece of furthering the business of the school district. But at the same time, during that time, you're respectful of other opinions, but you do have to come together. I've always been a team player. I'm a believer in developing relationships, working relationships. You don't have to like, I don't have to like Ryan right here to respect his opinions and work with him. maybe that's an added benefit, but it's not on my radar that I got to like people, because I'm not a touchy-feely guy. You can talk to my wife, Ann, about that. But there's mutual respect that goes with that. And my experience as being a team player, I think, is an important part of that. You need to show unity within the board, and what goes on behind closed doors, there could be some yelling and screaming and some good points that come out of it. It's certainly a better decision comes out of when you see those and you air out those disagreements. Thank you.
Mr. Lazarus.
Well, I've already got coffee scheduled with Don Lowe for Friday to meet and get to know him a little bit better. I think a lot can be said for meeting for coffee, having a beer together, getting to know each other as individuals on the board, and understanding that this is a volunteer position. None of us are doing this for the money or the power or the prestige. We're doing this because we care about the kids. And I think if you look at all the other people on the board and remember that when you're talking to them and trying to come to solutions, we're not doing this. One of the questions that was asked in one of the pamphlets that I filled out was, how do you balance the needs of the diverse needs of our kids, our teachers, our administrators? And I'm thinking, we don't have diverse interests. We all want a great education for our kids. That's why we're here. Our kids want a great education, deserve a great education. My kids are in this school. I want them to have a great education. Their friends, the kids following, we're all after the same goal. And I think recognizing that and when we sit down together is an important part of that cohesion.
Ms. Ockery.
Everybody's making pretty much the same points that I would make. The one thing I say that I appreciate with the people that I serve with right now, everybody comes to work prepared. Everybody has read the materials. We all have notes that were, notes, questions, things like that. It makes it go a lot smoother when, we're all on the same page that way. And I appreciate that. And I do, I think that it's important to listen and also just, I'm trying to think of a good way to say this. It's like fight when you need to, but I don't want to fight just for fighting's sake. So I think it's important, yes, that we are cohesive, but it's also important that you stand up for things you believe in.
2 minutes, Ms. Crite.
Thank you. Yes. There's a lot of research that shows when you have a group dynamic that if there's nobody asking questions or bringing up different perspectives, that you can get caught up in what's called groupthink, where you're kind of like trapped in this non-functional way of looking at something, very one-dimensional. And I think it's very important that we work together in a way that allows for respectful differences, ways of looking at things. And that doesn't mean that we're not working together if we look at things differently. It just means that we're sharing a different perspective. And I think it's very important as board members that we're respectful of when somebody else looks at a problem differently or looks at a solution differently, and that we don't become looked at as a problem for identifying a different way of looking at something, and that we're able to be respectful of one another and work together in a way where we can dialogue to come to best practices and best solutions in the best interest of the kids. And it's not always easy to do that. Sometimes, you have to have hard discussions, but I think it's definitely, they're not conflicting, being able to dialogue and ask questions and work together.
Okay. We have time for one more question, and then we'll have our 1 minute wrap-ups for each candidate. And this one, again, I'm going to ask as a blanket question to the entire panel. School safety, unfortunately, as we sit in 2023, that is a topic that needs to be discussed continually. With regards to school safety in the Blaine School District, where do you think the district currently stands? Are you satisfied, or are there is there room for improvement in keeping our children safe at Blaine schools? And we'll start with Erica.
Yeah, I definitely think safety is very important. None of us ever want anything bad to happen to our kids when they're at school, and it's been traumatic watching that happen to other schools in the country. I think there's always more we can do to make it safer. I think close relationship, working with law enforcement and figuring out what are best practices that are happening nationally to make schools safer, I think is very important to making sure that, you know, everything that can be done is being done to make sure that the kids are protected.
I think that one of the things I also didn't realize until I was on the school board is all of the policies and practices they have in place to keep students safe. Things, you know, people grouse about the fact that you have to ring a doorbell to get into the school, but there's a reason for that. You know, it's to protect the kids from people who shouldn't be in there getting in there. And unfortunately, too, I think we have to kind of acknowledge that the safety aspect also comes from within with the kids themselves. Unfortunately, I've heard from parents, I've heard from other people, you know, that there are issues with bullying and things like that within the school. And so I'm not certain that I have an answer for that, but it's definitely something I think we need to address and figure out, you know, some best practices. What are ways that we can kind of protect these kids and keep them safe from each other sometimes? Anyway, I don't, you know, it's a very difficult question to answer.
Mr. Lazarus.
I think our schools are generally a safe place for our kids. Like Kimberly was saying, that you can't just walk into our schools without ringing a doorbell with it. Not anybody can just wander in. I think we've got as much of a problem with bullying, safety issues within the schools, our kids feeling safe from other kids. And I know this is being addressed. I was at the PTO meeting a couple of Mondays back at the middle school, and I gather it's better this year. I think COVID created a lot of problems, and as kids are coming back and getting more into the groove of things, I do believe it's getting better. There's a new app that's been put out that's supposed to try and help keep kids apart that should stay apart. Obviously it's important, it's something we need to stay working at. It's also, on a larger part, a community issue, which is kind of outside the scope of what the school board can address. But staying in contact, we're fortunate to have the border right close. We had a gun incident a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, and having the border guards as accessible as they are to us, I think is a real boon to the Blaine School District.
Mr. Freeman.
Safety, what a great topic. I think the way the new high school has been laid out, they've been smart about limiting the number of entrances and locks down. That school was designed with safety in mind. I think that's a good example. I suspect that the middle school and the elementary school are more vulnerable. You know, I am a fan of a resource officer, an armed city police resource officer who is available on campus full-time. I am also a fan of selected teachers within the schools with concealed carry and protecting safety. So from the big picture safety and intrusion in that situation, I support those kinds of moves. This notion of a gun-free zone is not true. We've seen it. It is a joke. You got to wake up to that. And then within the school, the kids in safety, the notion of bullying, I've always been intrigued with that. You know, the best example I can give right here is I had a niece who graduated maybe 10 years ago, and she knew how to throw a punch. And so when it came to her girlfriends being bullied and the boys being bullied, she just made it real clear to the guys that you mess with my friends, don't do it. And that seems like a crude way to deal with it these days, but we've gotten way too tender around some of those kinds of things, and we have got an environment of whiners and complainers, and they don't want to face the music and deal with it. Because I've always been a fan if you know when you face a bully and square up with them, it's going to end, and it may not end in your favor, but it will at some point in time. So that's what I would say about school safety. It's critical to us, right? We want to continue to have the kids healthy and safe, and it's an important issue. Thank you.
Mr. Ford.
Still on, okay. Oddly enough, I feel a lot less safe with my kids in school this week than I did before. A really good friend of mine brought his stepson, brother's kid, who is not available at the moment to raise him. He was homeschooling him and gave him the opportunity to go back into school into 7th grade this year. He's a blunt kid. He told the kid, hey, your blue hair is kind of a little goofy. And he got jumped by 3 kids. And they attacked him. This caregiver, who's my really good friend, he grew up in gangs. He's been around it his whole life. Got in some really big trouble when he was 18, out of town, and ended up in jail, straightened himself out. If that kind of stuff's happening here, we need to do something. I didn't realize it was happening here. I know there's racism in our community. I've seen it. I've experienced it. My wife married, or my sister married an African American, and I see it a lot more than I did before. We need to support groups or opportunities for these kids who are outright telling student or principals that they're in a gang. They need to be sat down with people who've been in this situation, who've almost died, and say, look, do you want this? Do you want to end up in prison over a stupid blue hair comment? They need to be set straight, or our community is going to go down. I just believe in supporting the principals and giving them opportunities with members of the community that can sit down with these kids and help them learn.
For those of us that were parents when the gun scare happened, I believe it was at the end of last year, and it was the day after the horrible shooting in Texas. And as a parent, sitting at home being told to stay away from the school, while law enforcement is trying to make sure that your children are okay, that's very difficult. We need to, of course, look at all the physical things. I'm sure the schools in new designs have worked on that, taken care of that. We need to look at that. We need to make sure that stuff's done. But we need to focus on the other side of it. We definitely need, I assume Blaine still has student resource officers. I know a lot of other schools in the past few years have said that student resource officers are not welcome in their schools because of stuff that's happening outside. I always had a good relationship with my student resource officer. I think they should be in the school. I think we should foster that good relationship. And I think as a community, it's not only the school's job. We as a community need to support the schools, and when kids are having challenges where bullying's happening outside of the school, we need to work with the school, we need to work with their parents, and we need to stop that stuff. So it is not just the school board's responsibility, it is the entire community's responsibility to make sure that these schools are safe and it is a safe place to send our kids.
Safety, I think, is more important than education, actually, in schools. If you're not safe, you're not going to be educated. We need to do several things, I think. One, the state needs to fully fund education. Our state spends about a third less than many other states in the country per pupil. And we need to get after our legislatures to fully fund additional counselors, especially with respect to this issue, because we would benefit greatly by having additional counselors to work with our kids. In addition, I think we need to do a very deep dive in an annual review every year in terms of the safety policies in our schools and where we can get better. That needs to be looked at every single year. I think we should also, even though this is a tight fiscal time, money would be well spent bringing in a consultant to look thoroughly at all of our safety policies, not just the physical, but also the emotional safety of our children. And then finally, the good news is that the middle school which currently has very poor sight lines for monitoring students and poor restroom facilities in terms of safety. The new building is going to have much better sight lines. It'll be like somebody mentioned down here that the high school has been designed for that. And so a new design is going to help us greatly if we can get the bond issue passed.
Thank you. All right. We made it to the closing statements. Each candidate will have 60 seconds, and we'll begin with Ms. Crate.
Well, I think it's so important to remember that the system impacts so many people that don't have a seat at the table, and that we always really need to make sure that we have board members who share the voice, do what's in the best interest of the kids, and make sure that their voices are heard, that parents' voices are heard, that people on our board are able to and willing to communicate and find out what issues are. And so that's what my intention is with being on the board, to make sure that it's an open system where there's communication, so that we can do what's in the best interest of the kids and the educators.
I think that probably everybody sitting up here would say that this is not like in their comfort zone to sit up here in front of a bunch of people and ask questions and talk about themselves. But the thing we share is we're all here because we have that common goal of doing what's best for the students in the Blaine School District. And I'm lucky. I have a public-facing business. I'm there all the time. People come to talk to me about things at the school. I encourage people, if you have questions, please come talk to me. If I don't know the answer, I'll find out for you. That's my goal. I just want to be there for everybody and for the kids. Thank you.
If I'm elected, I'm going to treat this position much as I treated my business that I bought a number of years ago. I jumped in way over my head, not knowing what I was doing, and I determined that for the first several months at least, I was just going to do what the old guy before me did, even if I thought they were dumb ideas. And I did them for a while, and after a while I did change some of the things that he had been doing that I thought were outdated, weren't good decisions. And then other things surprised me, and I kept them because it turned out there were good reasons behind the scenes that I didn't understand. So if I'm elected, I'm going to be working, I'm going to be listening, I'm going to be learning, and I think that's the best I can say for this.
Mr. Freeman.
Whereas I am a school choice guy, and I believe in competition, it makes us all better. I believe that we have to have a functioning, healthy public school system. If I had kids today, I know enough about Blaine where I would still put my kids in the Blaine School District. And so I'm really interested in being a part of continuing the successes and to make it a stronger, more productive school. So I look forward to serving you all.
Ryan?
I think for me it's just increasing communication with parents, with students, with teachers. I think that we could definitely improve communication to everyone in the community, using our community together to help grow as a school board, as a school, and as a community, I think would be our best way forward. I think helping improve teacher to administrative relationships would be huge. And in the end, we're all here for the kids. I want my kids to have a better education. I want to support them in any way I can, and I hope that we all, whether we're down there, up here, running, winning, I don't care if I win or not, I'm still going to be at the meetings as much as I can and trying to support, and I hope we all can too.
Thank you for coming here tonight and becoming more informed. It's important, and thank you to the Chamber for organizing this. When I told my coworkers I was running for school board, one of them told me, Derek, do you hate free time? And, the answer is quite the opposite, of course. I actually would love to have more free time, but, I think I can make a difference. And ensuring our children have a good education is the future of our community, country, and world. and to my fellow constituents here in position 4, I can promise you if elected, I'm going to give it my level best and nothing less. And I'll, of course, listen to you before making decisions, and I'd be honored to have your vote this November. Thank you.
I think rather than talk about me, I'd like to report to you on our school district, if I could, in my minute. As a person who's been on the board and looked carefully at things, I've worked with over 100 school districts and school boards around the country in my career. And you should be very proud of what you have here. This is an exceptional leadership team. You have an exceptional faculty of teachers. And your kids, of course, you know are wonderful. We've been through a lot of challenges recently, and I want to just highlight one thing. The leadership team has been charged to bring in change, to improve education of our kids. And they have. They've implemented at least 4 different things: a consistent curriculum in math and English, a professional development model that has high evidence for success, and school improvement plans and achievement goals. And I will just say in closing, we're already beginning to see results, especially in our younger grades in reading and math, and at the high school, especially in mathematics. So we're very fortunate to have this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Well, a week from tonight, next Wednesday, ballots will be mailed out. Election Day is November the 7th. Thanks to the Northern Light for helping to put this together, and also thank you to Pastor Tim and the Birch Bay Bible Community Church for hosting our forum tonight. Please do get out and vote. We did record this session tonight, and once I get it edited, no promises, no lies, but hopefully by the end of tomorrow, we will have it available digitally as well. Thank you all for your public service. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you again soon.